Welcome back to the Nourished Woman Podcast. I am so excited to share today's guest with you. I know I say that every time, but y'all, I want you to know I put so much thought into the women that I bring on here to share with you. And today I'm getting to do a little blast from my past. I'm connecting with Kat Smith, gosh, excuse my tongue. We met at Yoga Landing as teachers at that facility in Chattanooga, and you are a really established, seasoned yoga teacher. You've been at this a long time. You're an Enneagram teacher. You're a TEDx speaker. You have so much different gifts to offer and for us to explore. And also, you're just this gem of a person. You're one of those people who has this grounded, there's like a positive energy for me when it comes to you. Like, I've never been around you and felt like you were spewing negativity out into the world. And also, I see a realness in you. And I know that many of my students at Yoga Landing, some of which I still actively work with, hey, my Chattanooga ladies, um, they gravitated towards you too, a lot of times. And so I'm really excited to see where our conversation goes. I'm so honored to have you on today, Kat.
Thank you so much. The honor is all mine. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and for trusting me. I hope I don't disappoint. I'm so excited.
If you are yourself, we will have won at this conversation.
Got it.
Well, Kat, to start us off, I would love to know what is just so nourishing for you right now. It could be physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, spiritually, energetically, just like what is feeling so good in your life right now?
I think the main thing, I just turned 48 a few weeks ago, and for some reason, that particular birthday just marked a time where I am paying a lot of attention to myself, and not to sound cliche or sort of just hallmarky, but for some reason this feels like such a good time to listen in and recognize what is it that I'm wanting and needing and not needing, and kind of follow that direction so it applies in my family and my parenting and my work and my relationships, and but mainly just things that resonate with me as a person. So I feel like this is the time where I am sort of evolving and coming back to myself, if it makes sense, from being um, a mom and kind of just orbiting around that, and being a wife and being a yoga teacher. I'm kind of coming back to just Kat.
Yeah. I'd be so curious to hear some of what you're learning about yourself in this season of your life that maybe feels the same or maybe feels different
Mhm.
about you now.
Well, I am in full swing of perimenopause, so it has been a hell of a ride, and I'm sure I'm not unique in saying that.
Yeah.
Um, I think mainly it is just getting clear on like in yoga, and I'm sure you've heard that when you've taken a class, and I kind of just been um, kind of talking the talk and knocking, not walking the walk on this particular one. But when we say, listen to yourself and get clarity and exercise more care and compassion, and allow yourself to say no if you need to, allow yourself to rest if you need to. And I would say all those things, and I would really encourage all of my students to do that. And I sort of just blew over it for myself. So this is the time when I'm really trying to walk the walk for myself, and it doesn't feel very comfortable at times, and it takes extra effort at times, and certain things are not very organic. I'm trying to not be judgmental. I am
Yeah.
trying to not feel like I have to earn rest. I am trying to let myself be more emotional. I'm feeling emotional even saying that.
Yeah.
And being fine with that, and reminding myself that it doesn't mean I am weak or not with it.
Mm.
And then I am really trying to just take care of myself because, as we all know, you can give from an empty cup and burnout is real. And I am trying to be aware of that and not just as an observer, but as an active participant.
Yeah.
So, truly going inward as yoga teaches us and applying everything that we've taught for years, but kind of like, but I'm fine. I don't need rest. I don't need more restorative. I don't, if I just work a little harder and just letting all this shit go finally. So it's just been really interesting and I'm feeling more confident and comfortable doing all those things.
Yeah. It's a
Instead
practice.
of instead of just giving myself just like little bites here and there and then sustaining on the crumbs and now I'm just prioritizing what is it that Kat wants and needs and it
Mm.
feels all right. I'm rolling with it.
Yeah. Well, I think that honestly, so many of us can relate to that story. And I feel like part of what we don't talk about culturally enough is how, like, motherhood very much is a journey of, like, as much as I hate to say it out loud, like, a lot of us are just surviving.
Yeah.
Like, and we're thriving with the surviving, like, things are going well. But also, there is this sort of disconnection that a lot of women are feeling. And I know a lot of times in those like midlife years, especially with perimenopause,
Mhm.
and that like the transitions that are happening, like children are going off to college or children are becoming more independent in the world, it becomes a time when a woman can finally have that pause with herself and actually do some of that work of getting to know. Because I feel like earlier in life, it's like about growing up, and then it's about figuring out how to prove yourself as an adult and make the money, and then you're like partnered up and having babies, and then and then you have this time. And for a lot of women, perimenopause is a time of monumental self-discovery and a lot of like important healing work happens, like you talking about the tenderness of being with emotion.
Mhm.
Like this is a time when a lot of women finally have the space or feel that they have the space or just have the free time to where it's like, oh shit, I got to deal with it.
Yeah.
I can't just keep waiting.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And, motherhood is a hell of a journey. And I always empathize and sympathize to mothers who are in, I call it active war zone, like you are elbows deep and then there's no breaks and you are in, like Brene Brown says, you're in the arena fighting,
Mm,
and it is a ongoing, never stopping, physically exhausting, numbing kind of work. It can be as beautiful and rewarding and special it all is. I feel like it's messy. It's like all of it, but
mhm,
it is a survival. I had to survive my kids when they were little, and then I felt like I had to survive a teenager, and then I had to survive, prepping for letting, her go, and then I had to survive the letting go. But then the silver lining of it all has been like my relationship with mothering has changed and um me as a mother didn't have to be the one who was always just taking all the space in the room internally and
mm,
then somebody else had space and room to kind of come forward and it was me. And I know it sounds weird, like no split personality here, but we all wear a lot of hats. And like you said, I had time to consider me and pay attention to me. And that has been an unexpected gift
mm.
of change in my motherhood. And also, I think it's been an unexpected gift of perimenopause
Yeah.
because it really shakes you up and you either start paying attention or it's going to take you on a ride that you really don't want to be on.
Hmm.
So
I think that's such an important piece of the journey of like that recognition that you can go on a ride that you don't want to go on. Like we can keep avoiding, we can keep not tending to our stress levels, we can keep not doing the emotional work, we can keep not letting our inner self take up space and emerge.
yeah,
And that comes at a cost ultimately. And it's just not a cost that, like, the women who listen to this podcast, we don't want to fucking pay that price.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's not worth it.
yeah.
And also, I think we have to see those opportunities because, like, okay, so first off, if our kids are ever listening to this episodes, we love you so much and you're
So
so worth
much
all of it. You're so worth all of it. And
gifts from
also,
God, gifts from God.
truly, like, the best. And also, like, woof, does it make us kind of, change who we are in order to be the mother that we believe that our kids need and also rise to those occasions? Like, it is kind of like a chameleon, like that fawn mode. We get a lot of that in motherhood because we need to. Like, our kids need us to be certain things, but also we have to recognize, I think, these are my words, this is my story, when we have an opportunity in the middle of motherhood or like at any point in the motherhood, whether it's perimenopause or just having some time to yourself, that time to yourself is a space where you get to emerge and you get to take up room and you get to ask yourself, how do I like my eggs cooked? Like me, not like how do I want my kids want their eggs cooked or my partner want, like, what do I want to do with this time? Like all those things that we think are so simple, but are actually these like important messages to self that we get to take up space.
I had Oprah calls it aha moments. So my aha moment was I was having a conversation with a friend and she a little older than me and never had kids. And her joy in life is travel. And she was a travel agent for a while, and that just her passion. This is what she does. And I've always had so much envy because, I am stuck here with kids and school and parties and lunch making, and I can, if I get out on to dinner with my husband, that's like an oop-de-doo, but I would never want, and we were having a conversation and she said, okay, so tomorrow you have an opportunity to go, like everything is taken care of, all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, where do you go? And I sat there blank, like all this envy, all this, oh, I wish I could. And, what would I do if I had that, her life or her opportunities? And I was at blank. And she
Mm,
said, you know what? You need a list 5 miles long of things where you want to go and what you want to do and what you want to see and what you want to experience
yeah.
on the ready. Even if you're not in that spot in life, it's important because it's yours. And that means you're having a conversation with you and you're in tune with what it is that would ignite fire for you or what would make you excited and how you want your eggs cooked and all the things. But unfortunately, and I don't think I'm unique in that. I so wanted this other side of motherhood, yet I had I was to the point of being in such a conveyor belt. I couldn't even tell you one place I wanted to go if I could,
Yeah.
which is absolute craziness. So
Yeah.
that was my moment, like, okay, well, let's sit down with you and maybe that's a conversation that we have, internally.
Mm. Wise friend of yours cheering you on for being available for that conversation. And also, like, that capacity to dream and desire and know yourself and to listen to that intuitive pull. Like, it's so important.
Yeah.
I think so many women are hard on themselves. They're like, I want to like achieve all these things and like do all this stuff and make all these plans. And I want to like really listen to my intuition. But then they don't do this work of like just getting to know yourself and asking yourself, like, what do I want? Where would I go? What is my 5 mile long list of wants? Because they're important. And I feel like in the yoga philosophy, we see all this stuff about like desires being bad. And I really like, as much as I love yoga, because I am all in, like, I completely disagree. I think women need more room to express our desires, and our men and non-binary folks too, but women are my crux of my work here.
Yeah.
And I hear you saying that this has been nourishing and it has also been an edge. Like it's been so nourishing for you to have this time in this space and to feel this return to self and to feel yourself leaning into emotion and desire and exploring, like, what do you want? And it's also not been the easiest thing to do. And I think we have a lot of assumptions about that as women, like, oh, it should be so simple for me to tune into myself. But really, there's a lot that we get to avoid or not deal with or not see when we're on the conveyor belt.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and I don't want to limit that to just motherhood. I think as women in this age, we're conditioned to give to everything and everybody else. And, I always envision it's the line of whether it's people or objects that we are, everything we need to give to, and ourselves at the very end of the line. And by the time that we get to ourselves, there's literally like, I have given it all. You're gonna need to wait till the next given day or given month or whatever. And then it's a perpetual cycle. And also I think we are, as women, are conditioned, at least I have been conditioned, that it is selfish to
Mhm.
do it for yourself, which produces guilt, which produces shame, which produces, that's a bad thing, and like, don't be bad. Go into the Enneagram language. But eh, and I think it's exclusively women. I look at my husband and I love him to death, and he's the most kind, giving person. If you wake him up in the middle of the night and say, what is your 5 mile long list? He would tell you like this. If you were to say, you know what, this is the date, go. I am convinced he has his bag packed and stored underneath our bed, and he'll just whip that backpack up and he'd be ready to go. Women, not so much. I think men are so much more comfortable and just free to think of themselves without feeling like it takes away from all the other things they have to give to. And unfortunately for women, I don't think it's the case. And I frankly, as much as a girl power girl I am, this is something for us women to learn from men.
Mhm.
Like, you know, you,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I
not
can
selfish.
echo that. My
Yeah.
husband, he's always been good about telling me things that he wants, and they're generally like small things. Like I would really like to, like he's really into movies, and so he's like, I would really like to watch this movie. And it's been like a practice for me, and he's been very good at mirroring back to me like, why don't you tell me some of what you want to do? Which
Yeah.
is great. Like it is something that I've been learning from my husband for a very long time. And I do see in myself a change of like when I became a mother again and again and again, right? Because you and I both have more than one child. There's less of that unless you're cultivating that. And so it's been this conscious choice. But I do see that same thing in my man of like, if I asked him, things he wanted to do for himself, it'd be no problem. And me too now, but it's been a practice.
And I think this is part of American culture where, in relation to, say, European culture, in America, we're conditioned, you work hard for this retirement, nirvana, whatever it may be. That's when you get everything you want, and because you worked for it. And I think we do the same as women, where, well, not now, but then, not now, but then. And then you start thinking, well, when is then? Like, when is it coming? When I am 95 years old, God willing, and I just can't do anything that I've been dreaming and waiting to do? And that is why, I hear a lot of conversation with women who are asked, well, what message would you give your younger self? Or what advice would you give your younger self?
Mhm.
And as hard as it is, if I were able to talk to myself 10 years ago and 20 years ago, I would say, I know you can't do what you really want to do fully now, but you should still try as much as you can, give to yourself, because I think we get in this rut of, well, not now, but but then I'll take care of me. But now I just get, and then may never come, or then you may not have an opportunity to do things that you've been waiting for. So,
Yeah,
like, women who are in the arena fighting and being elbows deep and are exhausted, I think it's important to still like drag the time, the opportunity to give to yourself as much or as little as you can without, oh, I'll do it when kids leave and when they get married or whatever it may be, or when I get this promotion, or when, I make this move, or when I save this money, whatever it may be. So
sure.
don't wait.
Absolutely. I think it's so important because there's always going to be different things. And I see that in my clients. Like if they don't have kids, they might be like taking on a caretaker role or they're taking on extra things at work or like, there's just always something to pull you towards it.
Mhm.
And this it really is something that I feel like yoga is so good at. I often joke that it's just like banging us on the head with these reminders to like tune back in. And that's kind of a violent analogy, but also, like, sometimes I think we need a kind of strong, like, knock on the noggin just to be like, okay, actually, so many of us have tasted how good like a yoga practice makes us feel and where that takes us into in terms of self. But then we add that to the list of weights,
Yeah,
some of us.
yeah,
Some of you that are listening are practicing all the time, right? And good on you. And
yeah.
for those of you that have included yoga in this list of desires, but not actually following through, I just want to speak to that for those women and say this is part of it because I'd love to hear from you how yoga has actually helped you in this perimenopause journey, in this journey to really sink into those layers of self that you weren't able to access before. How's it been part of the support system for you?
It's been vital. The reason why I have such a ongoing romance with my yoga practice, because it has delivered um, what I needed during different times in my life. And it delivered differently, but it always has delivered. And, I was thinking about it before this conversation. So, one of the definitions that I have for love, well, two actually, is paying attention
Mm.
and being consistent. Like, to me, that's love. If
Yeah.
if you're paying attention to whatever it is that you love, or you feel like you're being paid attention to, and it's consistent. It's not just today you have it, tomorrow you don't. And that ultimately what yoga has been for me. So
Mm.
an opportunity for me to pay it. And again, I'm getting emotional saying this, which is wild, but it is an opportunity for me to have undivided attention for me.
From
That's
you.
one.
Yeah.
Yes. And two, that it's consistently there. So I love I teach regular classes, and I do some off regular things like yoga teacher trainings and things like that, workshops. But one of the things I do at least once a year is I teach beginner series. So I teach a series for folks who have never done yoga before, who have been either intimidated or heard about it, or their loved ones or friends doing it, but they've tried it and had really bad experience with it. They're just unsure where to begin.
Yeah.
one message that I tell my students is, if you hear nothing that I tell you but one thing, that in yoga practice specifically, but I think in a lot of things in life, consistency is so much more effective than intensity. And what I mean by that is I would much rather do 5 minutes, 5 days a week than 30 minutes once a week. So for folks who are intimidated to try yoga, who don't know where to begin, or saying, I just don't have the time. And I know you offer that platform for your students and your clients where you don't have to leave your house, and you don't have to have a special set of clothing, and you don't have to have a special shape to your special size or be certain age or gender or socioeconomical, level. Uh, and you don't have to have a buttload of time on your hands. It literally can be 5 minutes. And that could be your yoga practice, and then see where it goes. So,
Yeah.
um, to answer your simple question, very long roundabout way, it gives yoga has given me, and it's crazy again, I feel emotional, an opportunity to pay attention to me and be able to do it consistently and lovingly and kindly. And it hasn't always been that way with yoga. Um, I think because of how I felt it had to be, and now I'm kind of loosening the grip much more on it and letting it evolve into whatever is serving me. And if it is 5 minutes of movement, it is. If it's, laying on my bolster for 30 minutes,
Yeah.
that is my yoga practice, and I'm fine with that. And or if it's listening to chanting while I'm driving in my car, that is my yoga practice, because that's all I have time for that particular day. So
Yeah.
it has been the most flexible friend and companion that I have had in many years, who has consistently been there and allowed me to pay attention. And I don't know why I'm crying, Carrie.
It's a
But
love story. I mean, literally, you called it a romance. Like this is a love, this is what love feels like. And I too, I feel the same way about my practice. And about like I often describe it as like this hug. It's like anytime I need a hug, I can be held
yeah,
by my yoga practice. And it's this thing that like no one nothing depends on it. Like I know obviously we're yoga teachers and yoga therapists, like so obviously like people do come to us for it, but like a huge part of the yoga therapy model is that we're empowering the person to own it for themselves. And it's like because of that flexibility, it can be with us all the time. It doesn't need to live on a studio like with beautiful bamboo floors, like
yeah,
it's in the car, it's when you're in the dentist chair. It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
everywhere all the time. This love story just holding you.
You're absolutely right. And we're so reliant on external things to provide, to give to us, whether it is content or happiness or safety or security or whatever it is, that recognition, whatever it is that we're searching.
Hmm.
And the beauty of yoga, that it provides whatever it is that you're looking for, but internally. And I know if if any of your listeners are there listening to our conversation, be like, first of all, sounds crazy. And secondly, must be nice for her to have this magic wand where you can just tap it internally and all this magical wisdom comes through. But what I want to say to those folks is, give it a try, and just see what it does.
Hmm.
It's not that we have this special recipe because we're yoga teachers, or you get some kind of notch in your belt if you practice for so many years. And oh, yeah, well, she's been doing it for so many years. No wonder. But really, no, it is, whether you're a beginner or you're a master, just trying it and doing it would do the trick, so to
Yeah.
speak. So that's why I think it's so great.
Yes. And I do feel like there's one thing I want to speak to there because I do think not all trying it is the same. And I'm doing air quotes. I know this is audio, but it's like sometimes people try yoga and they try the hardest fucking yoga in the world. Like they're like, I'm going to go do the hottest power class. I'm going to
Yeah.
exercise pain, like let's bring it. And
Uh-huh.
it's like you're not going to get the same result. Like one of the most popular studios in my area here in Greenville, they do 3-minute shavasanas. And it's like, that is not enough, honey, for you to feel what Kat and I are talking about. We are talking about like, you need some time. You need some space to slow down. You need some room to get curious with the discomfort of slowing down. You need time to actually like soften into layers of your body that you don't even know you're holding stuff in. And so if you've tried yoga or not tried yoga, or feel awkward about yoga, or some people tell me like, oh, I just can't relax in yoga. Like my mind's too busy. It's like, well, that's very cute because you clearly need it if that's your experience. And if you continue to try and practice, but particularly like not these very high intensity formats,
Yes.
you can reach thresholds within that
Yes.
we're speaking about.
You're absolutely right. I took a workshop on restorative yoga, which is I have like a secret crush on. I don't advertise it a lot, but I am like single white female of restorative yoga. I'm obsessed. But the teacher, Mayor Richards, said, we do this, even forget the heated power, vinyasa, mindful flow, whatever it is you want. And it is an arousing practice. And I'm not saying sexually, but it's your
Nervous system. Yeah.
sympathetic system is engaged. And then we say, okay, you drop in Shavasana for 3 minutes. Who in the world like physiologically it's not possible. So
Yeah.
let's just say that. So you have got to give ample amount of time. And if you want to be bare minimal, the industry standard is 5 minutes of Shavasana for 30 minutes of practice. So for all my power yogis, and it takes one to know one because that's how I started many moons ago, it is for an hour class, you need to lie still for 10 minutes minimum.
Hmm.
Much longer if you need more rest and relaxation. So like let's get real about that.
Yeah.
It's what are we doing this for? It's like you're not going to brush your teeth once a week and say, well, my dental, and then be wondering why your dental health is suffering, right? Like
Or
that's
your
silly.
hormonal health. Like, these practices, they're actually like zapping hormonal health. They're
Yeah.
increasing cortisol. They're doing all the things. Like if we look into, I'm a nerd for the science. So if we look into the yoga research, we see like inflammatory markers go down, but we're not talking about any kind of yoga. We're talking about the kind of yoga that gives you the time to actually downregulate.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget that the true yoga, if we're nerding out, all of the meat and potatoes, if you will, is happening internally where no one can see. I was teaching Saturday morning and I was telling my students, we are here again to pay attention, to breathe, to listen to what's happening in your head. Apple bottom and tight abs is a bonus. And it is. Listen, I love that as well. Feeling,
Yeah.
stronger and leaner and flexible. It's all good and great. But do not make a mistake. The practice of yoga targets internal. And that means what is happening to you physically internally, mentally internally, emotionally internally. That is the goal of the practice. So it's all good and great if you want to go balls to the wall for 50 minutes in a hot class doing 150 billion chaturangas. But then please do remember, if you don't incorporate the internal peace, ample internal peace, you just had a CrossFit workout, which I am not knocking as well, but let's just make sure
Call it what it is.
that's
Yeah.
not yoga.
Absolutely. I think this is such an important conversation because I talk so much about the gift of yoga. And I think that, like, for example, I meet a lot of physicians in my work who will refer a client to yoga, but
Mhm.
then there's no qualifiers for
Right.
what constitutes a therapeutic yoga recommendation. And then, and it just kind of like, that like it grinds my gears because then we're just like flinging people out into, and I don't think it's not the physician's responsibility. It's our responsibility as the yoga industry to be clearly naming like what is this versus that? And like, what will this give you versus that? Because if you just want to work out and you don't want to know your inner self, go here. And then also, like, I have been in hot power practices with I can't remember the man's name off the top of my head, but he created it. And his classes were very internal. And we were
Mhm.
holding poses for long periods of time. And it was one of the hardest practices I've ever been in my life, but it was still yoga. Like this, we have this other thing that's just purely exercise that we call yoga now.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I really want to like just kind of make clear for our listeners. That's what we're talking about. If it doesn't offer you that inner chance to tune in, if it doesn't give you that space to actually feel your internal landscape, then it's really not yoga anymore. And that's a good like line in the sand of like, oh, okay.
I know. And I think, modern world, yoga had a lot of evolution, times and pieces, periods. But I think for yoga teachers of today, the biggest challenge is to, um, I'm trying to think of how to be clear to say it, but to not let their yoga teaching fall into almost this robotic AI world where it is, Instagram and hot pants and standing upside down and this completely wrong idea. You have to work on holding the truth, and I am not saying that you have to burn incense every day and wear shaggy clothes and not wear shoes and not have a mortgage and spend your entire day hugging a tree. No.
Yeah.
So, like, let's not talk in these polarities. It's either this or that, but we have got to. I feel like yoga was a trend maybe 10 years ago and it was very popular. And I think now there's, at least in my experience, I feel like we're competing with other different sort of variations of exercise. And I think we should be fine with that and focus as yoga teachers and focusing on still putting through the message of what the yoga is here for primarily. And primarily, it is the journey to thyself through thyself. End of story,
Yeah.
you know? So, anyway,
Mhm.
it grinds my gears too. I can get on that
I
tangent.
love it. I love having you on to talk about this with me. And then I'm also so fascinated. So I kind of want to put this in a frame so our listeners are hearing like my full seeing of you in this. And so it's entering perimenopause, going through this transition with your oldest going to college, your younger child is, reaching stages of independence that are accessible for him.
Yep.
You're seeing your relationship with your body evolve and change. You're seeing the needs that you have change, the space that you have for yourself change. Your yoga practice is changing. You're bringing in more restorative. There was a mindset shift around what you thought yoga needed to be versus what you're actually receiving now. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that, like about that experience and just touch on any more of that personally that feels so resonant for you to share?
Sure. Well, I think it's silly to think that as yoga practitioners or practitioners of anything in life, that as we hopefully evolve and grow through our different stages of life, that our practices are not going to evolve and grow as well. So I think it's silly to think that as I am changing physiologically, mentally, emotionally, physically, that my practice is going to stay stagnant. And I will be the first one to say that I am not unique to so many practitioners who come to yoga for physical benefit.
Mhm.
And that was it. For me, it was, I fell into it by sort of like almost an accident. And it turned out to be the only thing that I really felt like I was physically good at. After not being athletic at all of my life and accepting that just physical thing was not my thing and it was fine and
Mhm.
it just wasn't mine. And then finding that, you know what, I actually really enjoy it. I want to do it all the time and I'm good at it. But then if it stops there, it's like saying, well, then you stop evolving and growing and finding different facets of yourself. You don't stay the same. So the yoga evolved, and I still love a physical practice, and I still love the feeling stronger as I practice and feeling flexible. But I also like the fact that I can bend over and pick up a piece of furniture without breaking my back.
Mhm.
I also, right, like things like
It's
that.
very
I also
practical. Yeah.
Right. And I also like the fact that I'm able to, when I am, having my perimenopausal 3 a.m. wake up calls every single night, that I'm able to focus on my breathing and help myself go back to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's panacea for every trouble in life, but I'm saying it is so much more than just stepping on your mat and doing sun salutation. I love the fact that I can, sit quietly and let my thoughts kind of drift through. If I'm feeling like I have an invasive something that I just cannot get over roaming in my head. It
Mhm.
just all the things that if you're open to experiencing all the facets of yoga. And that is why I think it is a mind-blowing practice, because of how vastly generous it is to whatever need you may have. It it truly is one of the very few things that you could do in your really late age. And I think there's very few things in our life that we are fortunate enough to be able to say, I did in my 20s and I'm 85 and I'm still, busting a move. No, not a lot, I don't think. So that's why I would recommend yoga to anybody. I am of a belief of old teachers saying, if you're able to breathe, you're able to practice yoga. It rings true to me, and I intend to hang on to that until I can't hang on to it anymore.
Yeah. Well, it just seems like there's never not a time that we can hang on to it as well, because there is so much flexibility in the practice. And I hear you saying that in your journey, there's been this evolution of starting and having a very physical mindset about it, and then letting it become something that morphs and touches into different areas of your life and becomes that thing that supports you at 3 a.m. when you're having your perimenopause wake up call, or when you have that thought roaming in your head that you're observing and you would like to shift around and not put your energy into. And I think these are such practical examples for us. These are the practices of returning to ourselves and returning to ourselves as we change, right? Because I have a lot of women in my practice, and you might be that woman listening, who are seeing wrinkles start to line around your eyes or like around your mouth, or you're seeing your belly soften, or you're seeing some changes happen in your body that you don't always love, right? Like the aging process is something that we culturally really have a lot of. I think we do a great disservice to aging people. And even we don't just like celebrate the wisdom of the crone like archetype in our culture.
Yeah.
And I feel like as women, like for example, let me just tell a little story I lead a series called Embody, and it's a 6 week like transformational program for women where they really do this deep work of yoga and also like really learn to be at home in their body and to express through their body and to feel spiritually connected to their body. And we were talking about, for one woman, she was sharing that she has all these fears about aging because she feels like her belonging and her ability to get great job opportunities or to be liked is tied to her beauty. And she is a very beautiful woman. And that she's afraid of that changing. And it's like all these little things that I think we don't maybe even acknowledge within ourselves, because I think all of us can kind of identify with that on some level of like, oh, people like me because this, or will they like me if I have this? And I know that you've gone through some changes in your body that all of us get to go through in our own unique way, and that your yoga practice has been a place of return in that.
I want to be very honest with you. I think, again, for women in comparison to men, I think men are societally judged on how they do things. And oftentimes women are judged on how they look while doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's sort of a double standard that not only do we have to, kick ass in everything that we do, but we also have to look good doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a heavy crown to carry. And if we're being 100% honest, it's kind of the same thing as, I love to be very diligent with my finances, but let's just face, we're not taking all of our money with us when we go. Well, like we're all going to get wrinkles, we're all going to get gray hair. It's unavoidable.
Yeah.
That being said, I think there is a difference between having it consume you and then being flexible and kind to yourself as it's happening to you without completely like neglecting things that are making you afraid. Example, what I'm trying to say is I still color my hair because I'm gray. And I will probably say it, and I don't think that makes me not embrace my age, or I go twice a year and I get Botox because I have this number 11 between my eyebrows and I don't want to look angry, even if I'm not angry. And I embrace it. At the same time, I am not letting all of that consume me. And when I do see, I was putting my little hair in a ponytail. And then I was looking in the mirror and look in the back of it, make sure that I didn't have any weird hairs in the back. And I saw all these wrinkles in the side of my face. And I was like, whoa, didn't know you girls were there. And then I'm like, well, hell, I'm 48. I mean, not 20 anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
those are I think you just have got to be realistic, kind, compassionate. And if you feel very strong about certain things about your appearance, I think you should have freedom to take care of it. If you need whatever it is. At
Mm-hmm.
the same time, I think as women, I I completely understand what your client said about that fear because there's so much value that is put on how we preserve ourselves as women in our society.
Yeah.
And as much as you want to say, oh, all my wrinkles, they're just badges of how wise I am. But do I want all the wrinkles or do I want to like smooth out these two between my eyebrows and be honest about it and own it and not beat myself up about it?
Yeah.
So I think it's just there's this equanimity, there's this
Mm-hmm.
balance where you have to meet yourself and still love yourself where you are and know that you can't take the time, in reverse and we're all will grow old, and how can we do it? Women who are, you see on TV, I'd love to be Meryl Streep when I am however old she is, where I am still beautiful, but I don't look like I'm 40 years old when I'm not,
Yeah,
so
absolutely. I feel like I'm so glad you shared that with us because that was brave. And I know so many of our listeners are just going to be like, oh my gosh, yes, she's human too.
yes.
And I feel like so much of it, ladies, is about the meaning that we make behind it. So if you want to go get Botox and that feels really aligned for you,
Yeah,
then do it. But don't make the meaning that there's something wrong with you or that like there's something to be ashamed of or that like it's just a choice. It's an empowered choice that you can make to dye your hair. Or like I have this very funny bra, like I'm starting to get some chest wrinkles, and I have this very funny bra that's like a boob divider. And it's like, I wear that thing every night. I don't give a shit. Like it's my boob divider bra. So that when I sleep, it's not like all my boobs are pushed and wrinkling up my chest. And it's like, that's a fine choice for me to make because it's just a way that I choose to love myself, you know?
yeah,
And that's a totally okay it's okay. It's okay to struggle, like to see those wrinkles and be like, oh, girls, I didn't know you were there. But also, like, we can bring compassion and we can bring love and we can not pretend that we don't live in a culture that isn't judging us based not only on what we do, but also on how we look while doing it. And then we can choose how we want to engage in that.
yeah. And also recognizing that unfortunately we live in a world, whether you are watching TV or not, whether you're on social media or not, where there's so much that we're exposed to visually is just fake. It's not real. And yet it gives us this false mindset that this is the goal, this is a reality, and why can't we look like that or be like that? And that is where you have to, I feel, check yourself and recognize what's real and what's not, and what real woman, female body looks like, and what real female hair looks like, or face, or lips, or jawline, or arms, or legs, or butt. And listen, do I love, looking at my behind and being like, okay, I feel like it's a little rounder this month. Yes. Or if I extend my arm, I was like, okay, things are not as flappy here. Keep
Mhm.
doing the weights. Yes. But I continuously remind myself that this is not what my value resides in.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it also is helpful for us women if we are surrounded by people who remind us of the same thing, whether it is your partner who still tells you you're beautiful, who has seen you with, your retainer in your mouth and bags under your eyes and hair all over the place and no mascara on your naked eyelashes and still thinks you're beautiful, or it is your female friends, or if it's your children, or if it's your parents, or if it's whoever it is. I think for us women, it is so important to have that support system who tells us, yeah, you're not crazy. This is not real. This is a robot. This is not how human body looks like, or human face, and you're beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, that is so important. I went to a party. It was a naked lady paint party. And so,
Oh, I
yeah,
love it.
it was incredible. And so I walk in, and like the expectation is like you will walk in and be nude. And so we all walk in our clothes and then we all get naked together. And it was like women in their 20s up to women in their like 70s. And it was just incredible because we're all just sitting around naked together. And you think like, oh, it's going to be weird to go do this. Like it's going to feel weird to be naked. But you'd be surprised like how quickly it didn't matter. Like within probably 10 minutes, nobody cared. Like we were just all being together. And then we were painting like boobies and vulvas and bellies. And it was just, honestly, it was such a healing experience for me because there was nothing sexual about it. Like it was just women being in a room, being nude together. And it was a really neat experience.
I bet it was liberating.
It was. And you're also just like, all of us are just bodies. I think not that everybody has access to a naked paint party because I've only been to one of those in my lifetime. But it like just being around other women in their bodies and seeing like, oh, her too. Like, oh, none of us are living up to these archetypes of what
Yeah.
Instagram and AI and all the Photoshop in the world. Like we're all just real bodies. And I think we can also find that in a yoga practice because you're seeing all different kinds of bodies in there, hopefully.
Yeah.
And it like humanizes the experience.
Yes.
One thing I wanted to ask about was I know that this is not like we live in the US together, right? In different areas. You're in Chattanooga, I'm in Greenville, but
Mhm.
you weren't born here. And so I'm curious about how like being an immigrant and like your homeland, like how has that informed all of your experiences that you've talked about today? I'd love to hear your story some.
Oh, thank you. So, yes, you're absolutely right. I was born and raised in Russia. I came to America in 1993. So, this August would be 33 years since I've called this country home.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so all of my developmental years have been here, and I was fortunate enough to go to high school here and college and be a professional here and, um, get married, raise a family, and build a life. So, this is home. But yes, culturally, it's, very different. I always tell young people, any person, frankly, but young people, if you have an opportunity to travel and go outside of the place where you were born and raised, there's no bigger gift for changing your perception, your life perception,
Mhm.
than seeing a different environment, culture, place, people, and if possible, immerging yourself in that. It will give you such a incredible perspective on how people live elsewhere and what your life is like. So yes, culturally it was very different growing up. I still, to this day, I'm 48 years old, I struggle with sort of self-image and body image. It has been a lifetime of work, and I think it's going to be that till my last dying breath. In Russian culture, there's a huge emphasis on external appearance for women, and it sort of a non-negotiable. It is expected for a woman to be always put together, always a certain size, always certainly dressed, always with nail and hair and face made. And it's again a really heavy crown to carry. And unfortunately, I've learned that even with all of that, oftentimes the most beautiful women felt very insecure and not beautiful and less than. And then it became a hole that you could never fill and still continue to be miserable. And it was just such a tragedy, in my opinion. So,
Mhm.
um, growing up in America has very much helped with that. And that's just, kind of go back to your origin story. There's so many things that we carry with us, no matter how our circumstances change or how our lifestyle change or place where we live. That there's a lot of things that we carry with us from childhood that is, continue to have a need to be healed and cared for and acknowledged and kind of flipped
Yeah.
constantly. But yes, I am a proud immigrant. I'm proud American. This has been my home for a long time, and it definitely is. In today's political environment, oftentimes I don't really almost like broadcast um that I'm an immigrant, because as of late it has felt very unsafe.
Mhm.
For a while it's felt concerning, and now it feels unsafe. So um it just been a really weird time in my life in this country.
Yeah, and is it accurate to say that there's been like a shift where it didn't feel that way before and now
Absolutely.
it does?
Absolutely. In 33 years in this country, I have never felt scared in my life ever
Yeah.
for being um a, a Russian individual who immigrated here.
Yeah.
And now I am. I have never hesitated to acknowledge my accent or, provide my full name, which is, Cat Smith is an American version, of course, of my full name,
Yeah.
or, or talk about my experience growing up in Russia or my home country culture and history, because it is very much still a part of me and always will be. And now it's just those are the things I don't really talk about freely, or I talk about to very selective group of people.
Yeah. I hear the importance of owning that part of you and that heritage and sharing it. And I mean, just even like there's nothing like food from where you're from, right? Like there's just something so good about being able to share, I imagine, like Russian cuisine or your love of your homeland, right? Because they're like, and I feel like Russia in particular has been a country with the Ukrainian war that like a lot of people have mixed feelings about in a whole new way. And I'm sure there's pain, there's tenderness, and then now we have the political landscape that's really attacking immigrants and not and really highlighting a lot of false truths about who immigrants are and their value in our country and their danger, which, is just outlandish if you ask me. And I'm sure it feels
Yeah,
unsafe.
it
It's
does feel unsafe. And um, the friend whom I mentioned, who is a travel agent and who left to travel, who told me about having a list of places where I want to go, she's Ukrainian, and we have been friends for nearly 30 years. And she lives in Kiev. And she just came. She's also the U.S. citizen, but she chose to go back home and be there during the war, and she just came for a visit, so we were able to spend some time together. And um, even with us knowing each other, I mean, she's part of the family. We've been close friends for decades. It is such a painful subject, the fact that I am Russian and she is Ukrainian, and the atrocities that are happening. It is just, it's it's a heartbreak, and my heart goes out to her and her people and their stories and just the horrors of war, active war zone. And that is why I think it's important to say that you can't generalize people, that you can't just write out nations for the faults of um, so-called leaders of those countries.
yeah.
Um, that you can't assume that politics of a country translate to the general belief of its people.
Hmm.
And in terms of what's happening in this country, I think that dehumanization of immigrants, of anybody,
Yeah.
is the biggest crime there is.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's important to remember that no matter your belief system, your political stance, everybody, all of us are human. And that means everybody deserves to feel safe, to be respected, to be out of harm's way. Um, everybody,
Yeah.
period. So, and the fact that it's forgotten in this country right now, I think is a heartbreak.
Yeah. And it seems like that's the part that really, like, if we boil it all down, that's the part that feels scary
Yeah.
right there. Like, I think that's kind of like the bottom line.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, how do you because I believe that everything that we're going through, we can face head on and meet with compassion and love and use it as a healing opportunity. And it's interesting that, like, because, I would use the word trauma. I think that experiences like this are traumatizing, especially for the immigrant community.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put that on you. So please, like, throw that in the trash if you're like, no, that doesn't land. But I'm curious, like, how do you stay open and how do you use this as something for you to continue the practice of yoga and try to be a woman who's moving through the world in the middle of this active? Because it's not like this happened and then it's done. Like, this is happening.
Yeah.
Every time we pull up our news, every time we see some blip of some clip on the internet, it's right there.
Yeah.
How do you work with that?
I'm struggling. I'm struggling. I wish I could tell you that I just lean in my breath and my practice, and then I hold my head high, and then I bravely, move through my days. But I'm struggling.
Yeah.
I'm afraid. And I feel lots of time unsafe. And oftentimes, like there's not enough yoga. I'll be honest with you to cure that and to help with that. So, what I've tried to do is, and I'm very privileged to live in, first of all, to be a white woman, to be white
Yeah.
and not brown, very privileged. I'm privileged to have a legal status in this country. I'm privileged to be upper middle class. Like there's so many privileges that I have. And even with that, I had to ask the studios I contract with to take the place of my birth out of my bio because it
Mm.
felt unsafe. I don't really advertise. I oftentimes when I taught, I would talk about my heritage and make jokes, make fun of myself because I mispronounce certain things and certain, words, and now I don't. And I don't like being alone at home with my youngest special needs child when my husband, for example, has to be out of town because I'm afraid if something went wrong and
Mhm.
what happened. So there's just to answer your question, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
I had to get off Facebook completely in November of 24. I just felt like it wasn't good for my mental health.
Mhm.
I have drastically limited my exposure to any other forms of social media and news. And, um, you know, in one sense of the word, I feel like, it's probably somewhat putting my head in the sand, but in another, on the other side, like I couldn't function. I was
Yeah.
overwhelmed with uncertainty and fear and just because what I think is happening now is one of those unthinkables with the country that I know it would have like if you were to tell me this would be happening to immigrants even 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have said never. It's fantasy. And to have that play out in real life and to see the horrors that are being done to immigrants, to American citizens, to men, to women, to children is just unthinkable. And it's not just concerning, it's very scary.
Yeah. Well, and I think that I feel like it's such an important conversation. I want to recognize that first off, this is a hard conversation for you to have, and you're sharing it in spite of that. But also not like you're sharing it intuitively. Nobody's like forcing you to do this. You're choosing to
Oh,
do it. There's agency that
yes.
you have.
Yes.
And I also want to highlight like it's fine and well for us to sit and talk about how amazing yoga is and to talk about women's empowerment and to talk about agency and emotional healing. But if we're not acknowledging the cultural systems that we live in and how those impact us, then we're like, this is half-baked spirituality here because this stuff it's real and it's impacting you. And it's not just impacting you, it's impacting women around the world. I keep speaking to the female experience because that's my focus, but it's impacting human beings all over the world and all over the country. My husband is a chef. He works in an industry with a huge Latino population, and they are afraid. They're afraid to drive their cars to and from work. And I have women in my community who don't fall within the traditional religious constructs of being here in the Bible Belt, and they're scared. And so, like, if we don't acknowledge that that's going on, and that we are choosing to practice yoga and create a sense of safety and return to ourself, and that also we're a part of these systems, I think it's a form of gaslighting. And I also want to speak to like the immigrant experience is hopefully an empowered experience. Like, I don't want to talk about these things that make people who are immigrants that are listening feel like we're not acknowledging your power because you have lots. And you've made several powerful decisions, even if somebody else might judge them or label them differently. You've said, this is not good for my mental health. I'm going to take this out of my bio. I'm going to make choices that align with me feeling safer and powerful, right? And then you're also choosing to have conversations where they feel right. And I just kind of want to name, like, in this construct of like yoga practice and women's empowerment and women's emotional well-being and healing, like we're all swimming in this ocean together on this planet.
Yes. Yes. And, one thing that I love about yoga is I do feel strongly that it has, and I think you've mentioned something along the line. It has, I call it a ripple effect. So, that the goodness that you cultivate, that, because what, you know, the goal is self-awareness, self-love, self-acceptance, self-compassion. And I feel like if you are able to cultivate at least a little bit of that, we talk a lot about taking the yoga practice off the mat when we go
Hmm.
to grocery shop and drive our kids to school and potty train them and cook dinners and fight with our husbands and pay our bills and whatever it is that we do, that some of that is able to be extracted and go forth and create the sort of sense of a ripple where it would, in my opinion, karmically affect somebody else and they would affect somebody else and so on and so forth. And that's why I'm strong believer that that can save the world, that women can save the world, that art can save the world, that love can save the world, because otherwise we can just lay down and die right now. I mean, there's just oftentimes during these days, just so little hope. And I'm not saying again that yoga is a panacea or, whatever it may be, but I think if you can do what you can consistently, a little bit each and every day,
Hmm.
I want to believe that it would create a bigger, better something that, can maybe turn this rig around and put it back into the right trajectory.
Yeah. I think there's power in that. And also the like common ground of humanity that we find through yoga practice, right? Of connections with other people and hearing their story. And like there's so much beauty that comes from that. If any of our listeners are hearing your story and it's just kind of touching them deeply, or maybe it's touching on a part of them that carries some of this same struggle, what would you say to them? Like if you could just speak right into their heart and offer something to that person, what would that be?
Here's what I would say. In from, the wisdom of my 48 years, one thing that I have learned is nothing stays constant. So, one of the, not again to bring it back to yoga, but the teaching of non-attachment of yoga, the fact that we And that's not, again, I want to make sure that it's understood correctly because I misunderstood it for a long time. It's not detachment, not caring, not being passionate, not giving a damn. It is not grasping, it is not controlling. And that goes for good and bad. So if you are in a good spot right now, be aware of it, be grateful for it. Cultivate that, build on that. And if you're in the rotten spot, hopefully you're able to recognize that it won't last forever. And everything in life changes and shifts and it's ebbs and flows, and that's just what life is. So if you are in a rotten spot, I would say hang on for with your nails, with your teeth, with whatever you can, and know that it'll pass.
Yeah. I think that non-attachment is such an important thing because it allows us to relax our grip. So it's like hang on with nails and teeth to the truth
Yeah.
that there is more at play here than just what meets the eye.
Yeah.
And that there's this ripple effect, and that I know there was a time when during the first round of this president's presidency when I was really struggling.
Yeah.
And I called some elder women in my community and was just like, how do I wake up and put my feet on the ground and go out and do my work? Like, how do I do? I'm so scared. And they told me about the cycles. They were like, this is just a really rotten cycle. And like, we will come out of this cycle. And it was something I needed to hear. And I feel like that's part of what you're speaking to there. And it's this, like, this acknowledgement around what meaning we make. And then, like, we can hold the fear and we can also hold the truth of non-attachment, that
Yeah.
we can just be in the moment with it and that we can trust in the cycles and the goodness
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, we have talked about so many different things together. I feel like there's so much more that I would love for us to talk about. And I've also loved where our conversation has taken us. I want to ask you one final question, and it may feel redundant, but I'm sure that it will spark a place inside that just really like opens something new. And it's, how has your ever evolving relationship with yourself and with yoga, like how has yoga been a part of that ever evolving relationship with self? How has it been a part of your growth? How has it been a part of your healing? Is there any final thoughts on that you have?
Well, I just, funny you said that. So I was doom scrolling before, waiting for the interview to start. And I saw a quote by Demi Moore, who is,
Mhm.
if you're, grown up here, you know who she is. And here's what she says. I want to know at the end of my life that I've done everything possible to really step into the fullness of who I am. And I can say sitting here at 63, y'all, 63, that I'm still in discovery.
Mm.
So I just want to be crystal clear to anybody who's listening that I don't have my shit figured out, that I don't, that I make mistakes and things get messy, and there's certain things that I wish I could redo and I can't, and certain days are great and certain days are not. And all of that being said, I think it's important to still be in discovery. And I feel that yoga has been that constant. I keep going back to consistency, to that constant thing
Yeah.
that created and continues to create, and hopefully will do so for many more years, space and time for me to pay attention
Mm.
to what is inside and what matters, and the shifts, and what, if something shifted, how, and also creating clarity, letting the noise die down, letting all the shit settle back down so I can be clear on who I am, what doesn't serve me anymore, where I need to focus.
Mm.
And that to me, I think it happens to all of us regardless, but the fact that to have yoga alongside that process just makes it so much sweeter and, dare I say, better and more accessible and user friendly and feels kinder.
Yeah, I love that word user friendly. Gosh, we need user friendly things in life because life is complex and we've covered a lot of the beauty of it and the complexity of it. Kat, where do people find you if they want to learn more about, because you host a podcast, you are an Enneagram teacher, I know you do local yoga events in the Chattanooga community. Where can people find you and your work if they want to just experience even more of your goodness?
You are so sweet. So, I have a website. It's theyogasmith.com. So you're welcome to Google Cat Smith Yoga and it should pop up if you're ever in Chattanooga. I teach in studios in Chattanooga. You're welcome to look at my schedule on the website. So would love to have you in class in person or virtual. And I also, one of my greatest passions besides yoga is the Enneagram. And I have been fortunate enough to have a fantastic co-host and a friend to do the podcast with. So if you're ever interested in the Enneagram and yoga, we have a podcast called Enneagram+Yoga, where we talk about all things Enneagram and yoga related. My website also has my email address if you ever need to contact me. Whatever it is that you want to have conversation with about, I'm always open to that as well.
That sounds wonderful. And I feel like we need to just tell our listeners that don't know what Enneagram is because it's
Yes,
really
yes.
cool.
Yes, really quickly. So, Enneagram is a typing system that believes that all of the individuals out there can be typed into one of the nine personalities, and it's a little bit of psychology. It's a little bit of self-discovery, but mainly what I love about the Enneagram, it's very much like yoga, a tool that can have a really practical daily life application for us not only get into awareness of who we are and why we do things we do, what motivates us, what we're afraid of, but also how we can grow and how can we have more self-awareness and more compassion to ourselves, and therefore can uh, extend that compassion to people that we have in our lives, whether it's our family of origin or the family that we build or people we work with or friends, neighbors, what have you. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting to me. There's tons of online resources and books out there. So you can just Google the Enneagram and just read up on it. It's super great.
If you have a certain website that you like that has good info, I'll link that down in the show notes.
Sure. It's the Enneagram Institute. So that's considered to be the mother lode, but I'll send it to you. Yes. So you're able to kind of read a little bit and take a test and then, take it from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share yourself, your heart, your story with our listeners. It's been such a treat to have you here today.
Thank you. Ditto. Loved every minute of it. Thank you.